Okay, when I say European explorers in North America, who's the first name that pops into your head? It's Columbus, right? Of course. But, that's just the opening scene of a much bigger movie. Today, we're diving into the incredible and honestly often overlooked story of the French explorers. These guys didn't just visit North America, they literally mapped its heart and totally shaped its future. So, yeah, who else was out there venturing into this massive unknown land? Well, a big part of the answer is France. And here's what's so fascinating their reasons for coming, the way they did things, the empire they built. It was all completely different from the other European powers. They left this unique fingerprint on Canada and the United States that, believe it or not, you can still see all over the place today. So, what was the big idea? What was the one obsession that fueled this whole thing? It was the hunt for the Northwest Passage. Just imagine a kind of secret waterway that could slice right through the continent, a shortcut straight to the unbelievable riches of Asia. This wasn't just about planting a flag for national pride. No, this was a high-stakes treasure hunt for silk, spices, and gold. That one idea, it was the engine behind every single ship that set sail. All right, so with that dream of a shortcut to Asia burning in their minds, the French set their sights on the north. Their whole strategy was to get a foothold, a base of operations where they could launch their search into this vast, mysterious interior. And getting that first step right, well, it was everything. And the guy leading that first big push was this man, Jacques Cartier. You can really think of him as one of the original architects of New France. He didn't just sail around and look at stuff, he laid the actual foundation for everything that was about to come. Cartier's voyages back in the 1530s were a total game changer. He sailed up the mighty St. Lawrence River and had this light bulb moment where he realized, whoa, this isn't just a river, it's a highway leading deep into the continent. But you want to know his most lasting contribution? He's the guy who put Canada on the map. He heard the local Iroquoian word, Canada, which just meant village, and he kind of started using it for the whole area. And boom, just like that, a nation gets its name, and France's claim is officially staked. Now let's jump ahead to the next key player, and you could absolutely argue he's the most important of them all, Samuel de Champlain. See, Champlain wasn't just an explorer, he was a builder. They call him the father of New France, and he totally earned that title. He's the one who turned a line on a map into an actual living colony. I want you to remember this year, 1608. This is when Champlain founded Quebec City. And here's why that's such a massive deal. This wasn't just another temporary fort that would be gone in a few years. No, this was the first permanent French settlement in all of North America. It was the anchor, the capital, and the launchpad for a future empire. With Quebec as their solid home base, the French didn't just sit still. No way. Their ambitions started to flow south and west. They used the continent's incredible web of rivers and lakes like it was a natural interstate highway system, and they just kept pushing deeper and deeper into uncharted territory. And this is where we meet this really fascinating pair, Jacques Marquette, who was a Jesuit missionary, and Louis Joliet, a fur trader. Talk about an unlikely team, right? A priest and a businessman. But together, they went on a journey that would completely redraw the map of North America, inside the minds of Europeans. So picture it, 1673. These two guys hop in a canoe and head out into the great unknown. They're chasing rumors they'd heard from native guides about a great river, and they find it, the Mississippi. For weeks, they paddled, and this whole time they're driven by one burning question. Does this river flow west to the Pacific? Is this the Northwest Passage? Well, the answer was a complete shock. It flowed south. Now, this was huge. It meant the shortcut to Asia wasn't here, but it also revealed this massive waterway that could be the backbone for a whole new kind of French empire. And that brings us to Robert de La Salle, an explorer whose ambition was, well, as big as the continent itself. He heard about what Marquette and Joliet found, and his mind just lit up with the potential. He wasn't satisfied just knowing the river went south. He was like, I've got to see this through, all the way to the very end. And in 1682, he did it. He made it. He stood at the mouth of the Mississippi, staring out at the Gulf of Mexico. And right there, he made one of the boldest claims in all of history. He basically said that the entire Mississippi River basin, all the land touched by its waters, now belonged to France. He named it Louisiana for his king, Louis XIV. Just stop and think about that. A territory stretching from the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf. In an instant, New France went from being just a colony in Canada to a full-blown continental empire, at least on paper.
But hold on, how could a relatively small number of Frenchmen possibly control such a gigantic territory? The answer is really fascinating. It wasn't about conquest or brute force. It was about something much, much smarter. It was about business and alliances.
And this, right here, is the crucial difference. While other Europeans, like the Spanish, often focused on conquering people, the French model was built on partnership. They figured out pretty quick that they needed to work with the indigenous peoples, not against them. They formed these really complex military and trade alliances with tons of different nations because they understood that this network was way more valuable than any piece of conquered land. So what was the engine driving this whole relationship? The fur trade. You see, back in Europe, beaver pelts were like gold. They were absolutely essential for making the fancy felt hats that every fashionable person had to have. So the French traded European goods, things like metal tools, guns, and cloth, in exchange for these pelts. This created this powerful win-win economic system that was literally the lifeblood of New France for over 100 years. And at the very heart of this system were these incredible guys, the coureurs de bois. That means runners of the woods. And these weren't just traders. These guys were total adventurers. They'd leave the French settlements for months, sometimes even years, paddling deep into the wilderness to live and trade directly with native communities. They really became the ultimate cultural go-betweens, and they were the reason France knew so much about the continent's interior. So, after all these wild journeys, these massive claims, and all this trading, what was the ultimate impact? Well, the French presence fundamentally shaped North America in ways that are definitely still with us today. So let's just recap their legacy real quick. They were the first ones to really map the heart of the continent. They built a fur trade that was a massive economic powerhouse. They left behind a legacy of French language and culture, and that network of alliances they formed with native nations, that would go on to shape the politics of North America for generations to come.
And listen, this isn't just some dusty old history. Check this out. Quebec, Montreal, Detroit, New Orleans, these aren't just random names on a map. These are major North American cities that exist today because of the journeys of these very explorers. Their legacy isn't just in some old books. It's written in steel and concrete all across the continent.
So when you look at it, the story of North America isn't just one single, simple narrative. It's way more like a complex tapestry, woven with all these different threads. And the French thread? It's a really vibrant and essential one, coloring everything from our maps to our culture. Which kind of brings us to a final question to chew on. How different would this continent look, and even sound, if they had never come at all?